I am the sole resident and owner of Kavik River Camp. In order to run a business, I have to cater to the people in the season that they're roaming around. I need to make enough revenue to support the camp and get ready for the next year.
Alaska has never been gentle. It doesn't bend for the famous, the fearless, or the well-prepared. It simply exists raw, cold, and completely indifferent to human survival. For over a decade, the cast of Life Below Zero brought that world into living rooms across the globe, showing audiences what it truly means to live on the edge of everything. And for most of those viewers, it became more than just a television show. These weren't characters playing out scripted drama. They were real people doing real things in one of the most unforgiving places on Earth. So when rumors began circulating online that cast members had died, spreading rapidly through Reddit threads, TikTok videos, and social media comment sections, people felt it personally. The question on everyone's mind became urgent and deeply human. Who did we lose? And what really happened? That question deserves an honest answer. Not a clickbait headline. Not a vague video with dramatic music. And no real information. A real, thorough look at what's true, what's false, and what the Life Below Zero universe, including its spin-off, has truly lost over the years. Because while the main cast of Life Below Zero has beaten the odds and survived, the broader family connected to this franchise has not escaped tragedy entirely. There have been real deaths, real losses, real grief, and there have also been hoaxes, misinformation, and internet rumors that cause unnecessary panic among dedicated fans. It's time to separate one from the other, clearly and honestly, because these people deserve nothing less than the truth. Before diving into names and facts, it's worth understanding why death rumors about Life Below Zero cast members gained so much traction in the first place. The answer isn't surprising when you think about it. The show's entire premise is built around danger. Every episode puts its subjects in situations where a single mistake could mean serious injury or death. Viewers watch people cross frozen rivers alone, repair equipment in whiteout blizzards, and hunt large predators in the dark. The stakes feel real because they are real. So when someone posts online that a cast member has died, the claim doesn't land like a shock. It lands like a possibility that viewers had already been half expecting. The setting does all the work. It makes the rumor feel plausible before a single piece of evidence is presented. That psychological groundwork is exactly what rumor spreaders exploit, sometimes for clicks, sometimes out of genuine confusion, and sometimes simply because misinformation moves faster than the truth. The internet's role in amplifying these false stories cannot be overstated. A fabricated headline from an obscure website gets shared dozens of times before anyone checks the facts. Screenshots circulate without context. Fan pages post tribute messages for living people, and suddenly those tributes show up in search results as if they're credible sources. This is exactly what happened with several Life Below Zero cast members who are, as of 2025, still very much alive. Another factor that contributed to confusion was the passing of Jim Tweto, a beloved bush pilot and star of Flying Wild Alaska on Discovery Channel. Tweto died tragically in June 2023 when his small plane crashed near Shaktoolik, Alaska. He was 68 years old. Because Flying Wild Alaska shares a similar Alaskan wilderness setting and survival-focused theme with Life Below Zero, some fans inflated the two shows, and the news of Tweto's death got tangled up in conversations about the National Geographic series. His loss was very real and deeply mourned, but he was not a Life Below Zero cast member. The confusion, however, helped fuel the fire of rumor. Now let's address the rumors directly. As of 2025, the core cast members of Life Below Zero, the people viewers have followed since the show's premiere in 2013, are alive. The show itself was canceled and came to an end in February 2025 after an impressive run of more than a decade. But the people it featured are still out there, still living the lives the cameras documented. Sue Aikens, perhaps the most iconic face of the entire franchise, became the subject of some of the most persistent death hoaxes in the show's history. In early 2023, false reports claiming she had died spread rapidly across social media platforms, with some posts even specifying a cause and a date. The claims were entirely fabricated. Sue, born on July 1st, 1963, turned 62 in 2025 and remains active regularly sharing updates on social media and continuing to manage her remote outpost at Kavik River Camp, located 197 miles north of the Arctic Circle. She is the same woman who survived a grizzly bear attack in 2007, saw her own wounds, and waited alone for 10 days before rescue arrived. And she has not let internet hoaxes or the passage of time slow her down. Chip and Agnes Hailstone, the family-centered heart of the show, continue to live near Nurvik along the Kobuk River, raising their children with a deep respect for Inupiat traditions and subsistence living. Despite Chip's legal troubles in 2017, he served approximately 15 months in prison after being convicted of making false statements to Alaska state troopers. The family emerged intact, with Agnes holding things together during his absence. Both are alive and well in 2025, continuing a lifestyle built on generations of knowledge and genuine connection to the land. Jesse Holmes, who left Alabama to chase a dream in Alaska's frozen interior, is not only alive but thriving in a way that few could have predicted after a serious accident in late 2022. While helping with storm cleanup in Golovin, a heavy piece of debris fell on him, fracturing his ribs, breaking his wrist, and causing internal injuries. It was the kind of accident that ends careers. But Jesse refused to be defined by it. He rehabilitated with quiet determination, and in 2025, he crossed the finish line in Nome as the winner of the Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race, a grueling 1,128-mile journey across Alaska's frozen landscape. His dogs, including Hercules and Polar, ran with him every single mile. It was one of the most triumphant stories to come out of the life below zero world. Andy Bassick, who has lived along the Yukon River near Eagle, Alaska for years, is 67 years old in 2025 and still running his homestead alongside his partner Denise Becker. She too became the subject of unfounded death rumors in early 2024, which turned out to be completely false. The two continue to raise sled dogs and manage the kind of remote, resource-intensive lifestyle that the show made famous. Glenn Villeneuve, who left the show in 2019 after years as one of its most solitary and compelling figures, remains alive as well. He still divides his time between Fairbanks and a remote cabin in the Brooks Range, living largely off the grid by choice rather than circumstance. None of these people have died. Their stories continue beyond the cameras, beyond cancellation, and beyond every false headline written about them. But here is where the truth gets harder. While the main Life Below Zero cast has survived, the show's spin-off universe, specifically Life Below Zero, Port Protection, which followed a small isolated community on Prince of Wales Island in southeast Alaska, has experienced genuine, confirmed, and deeply mourned losses. These were real deaths, verified by authorities, acknowledged by National Geographic, and grieved by communities that knew these people as neighbors, not just television personalities. If one name defines the soul of Port Protection, it is Gary Muehlberger. Born and raised with a deep love of the wild, Gary had been living in Port Protection for nearly 40 years by the time cameras arrived to document his life. He was 75 years old, self-sufficient, and legendary within the community for skills that most people spend their entire lives failing to develop: trapping, fishing, woodwork, survival instinct. Gary had mastered all of it the hard way, through decades of trial and cold and consequence. Viewers loved him for more than his skills, though. They loved him for his personality. He was blunt and funny, the kind of man who could make an entire room laugh without seeming to try. He was rarely seen without his dog, Trapper, and his 100-year-old fishing boat, the Margaret T, was as much a part of his identity as his name. He was a man who would figure out how to live a full life in a place that most people couldn't survive for a weekend. On March 17th, 2021, Alaska state troopers were alerted to a fully engulfed structure fire in Port Protection. When they arrived, Gary was nowhere to be found. Community members hadn't seen him since before the fire broke out. Troopers and a deputy fire marshal combed through the remains of the structure and discovered human remains inside. Several days later, the state medical examiner's office in Anchorage confirmed that those remains were Gary Muehlberger's. The fire was ruled accidental, believed to have started while Gary was working on his propane hot water tank. He was 75 years old. National Geographic and the Life Below Zero production team released a tribute calling him a legend to the Port Protection community and saying the entire Life Below Zero family would miss him dearly. Sam Carlson, Gary's fellow castmate and one of the longest tenured residents of the area, said what everyone who had watched the show already felt. That Gary was probably one of the last of the old breed. His dog Trapper survived the fire and was taken in by someone in the community, a detail that brought a small measure of comfort to grieving fans. Gary Muehlberger was the first confirmed death within the Life Below Zero franchise family, and the loss left a visible hole that no camera could ever fill. 3 months after Gary's passing, Port Protection lost another beloved figure. Litzy Botello died in June 2021, following a private battle with cancer. She was 62 years old. Litzy's backstory was unlike anyone else on the show. Born on November 22, 1958, in Norwalk, California, she came from an artistic background that seemed worlds away from Alaskan subsistence living. She had spent more than 2 decades as a trained polymer clay sculptor, creating detailed aquatic-themed artwork before she made the decision to leave that life behind entirely. She found Port Protection, and in it, found herself. What made Litzy particularly compelling to viewers was the fact that she had endured more personal tragedy than most people ever face. Both of her sons had died, a grief so profound that it reshaped everything about her. And yet she didn't retreat from a world. She went deeper into it, into a place where life demanded full engagement every single day. On the show, she carried herself with a dry humor and an unbreakable spirit. She had lost the use of one arm, but she had adapted so completely that viewers often forgot about it entirely. She hunted, she fished, she built, she lived, fully and without apology. According to a post by her husband, John Dean, Litzy passed away in her own bed in Port Protection, with a beautiful view from her window. That detail says everything about who she was. She didn't die in a hospital somewhere far away from the life she had chosen. She died where she belonged, on her own terms, in the place she loved. Her death was confirmed in her obituary published in the Ketchikan Daily News. 2 cast members gone in the span of 3 months, both in 2021. Both are replaceable in entirely different ways. By any honest measure, the Life Below Zero universe has experienced real grief. Gary Muehlberger and Litzy Botello were not fictional characters whose storylines were written out. They were human beings who chose to live differently from the rest of the world, in a place that demanded everything from them, and they gave it willingly. Their deaths left gaps that no new castmate could fill, not because of television value, but because of human value. The rumors about main cast deaths, about Sue Aikens, Denise Becker, and others, are false. They deserve to be called what they are: hoaxes, misinformation, and the predictable byproduct of a culture that consumes content faster than it verifies it. The people spreading those rumors may not always have malicious intent, but the impact is real. Fans feel genuine distress. Families see false obituaries about their loved ones circulating online. And the actual stories of people who really did die, Gary, Litzy, get buried under the noise of people who are still very much alive. The show Life Below Zero came to an end in February 2025. National Geographic canceled it after more than a decade on the air and over 100 episodes documenting lives that most of its viewers will never live. Whether the cancellation was driven by ratings, shifting priorities, or simply the natural end of a chapter, it marked the close of something that had genuinely moved people. The Emmy Awards it won for outstanding cinematography were acknowledgement from the industry. The millions of viewers who tuned in season after season were acknowledgement from the world. And yet the people at the center of it, the ones who woke up every morning in temperatures that could kill an unprepared person in minutes, they didn't stop when the cameras did. They kept going, as they always had, before the show ever found them. There is something in the human spirit that responds to stories of self-reliance, something that responds to watching people navigate a world stripped down to its essentials. No shortcuts, no safety nets, no one coming to fix it for you. Life Below Zero gave viewers a decade-long window into that kind of life. It showed people who were not performing toughness but living it, who did not romanticize Alaska's brutality but moved through it with practical respect that made every episode feel grounded and real. And when the franchise ended, those people didn't cease to exist. Sue Aikens is still at Kavik. Jesse Holmes won the Iditarod. The Hailstones are still raising their children by the Kobuk River. Andy Bassick is still on the Yukon, and in Port Protection, The community still carries the memory of Gary Muehlberger and Litzy Botello. You can feel their absence in the spaces where they used to stand. The fish are still running, though it still needs splitting, and the winters are still long. Life continues, as it always does in Alaska, without sentiment, without pause, and without guarantees. That is the truth about the Life Below Zero cast in 2025. Some are still fighting, some are still winning, and some, in the corner of Alaska where port protection sits quiet against the sea, we have already lost. Their stories don't end with the show. They continue in the land itself, in the people who knew them, and in every viewer who watched from a warm living room and felt, just for a moment, what it truly means to be alive.